So we did touch on demand responsiveness previously. So let's dig into late shipments. What advice do you have for retail supply chain leaders to keep their shipments on track? Now, this is a big one, right? Because we're seeing delays across the board. I mean, we're even hearing about companies buying their own vessels to be able to bring their products over.
Absolutely. So that's a good example that just hit the news. I think it was yesterday with Home Depot, and so I think it does depend on modes, right? So that's a good example where in the ocean market right now, there's a lot of disruption, and so if you're a retailer that's heavily reliant on ocean, if you're not thinking about how do I potentially nearshore, how do I forward deploy product, or how do I look at alternative suppliers in cost-effective modes, those are things that you should be focused on, right? Yeah. It's not as easy as saying, well, to ship everything via air freight, right? Because your average container cost of, let's say, $4,000 or $5,000, which is skyrocketed in ocean, you can't charter a plane for $200,000 typically from a profit margin standpoint. So in terms of ocean, my guidance and advice is around understanding your network, understand where your supply is coming from, and then from a risk mitigation standpoint, not just understanding the current factors now, but also longer term, am I sourcing from the right locations? Are there alternative markets I could source from? Could I source within the Americas region to minimize some of the freight costs, even though my production costs may go up? And so that's one natural thing that should be focused on, especially on duties too, right? Yeah. In the new administration in the US, we haven't really talked about this yet, but the Trump era, there was a lot of tariffs and duties that were impacting supply chains on a very short notice, right? And so those are another factors of how do you think about your true global supply chain? On the road freight side, if I think of a typical North American based company, understanding demand is really important, right? And then one thing that many companies don't look at is transit times, right? What is my estimated transit time by customer, and do I have enough buffer there, right? If I have let's say a location that may be a one-day pickup and delivery for transit, but it's really tough with the current market conditions, should I look to extend that to 2 days within my ERP or planning system? And so, I think from a road freight perspective, you got to understand the network. If your goods can pick up on time, typically your odds to deliver on time skyrocket significantly, right? And so we see that statistically within our business. And so if you're not hyper-focused on, am I scheduling the goods with enough lead time, with enough transit time, and then also making sure that I've got the right visibility to pick up, those are things that will absolutely impact your ability to deliver goods on time, whether it's to your end customer, to your DC location or your store location. So that's one angle. Second angle would be around understanding your carrier mix, right? Within retail operations, there's going to be a mix of common carriers for hire, as well as private fleets and dedicated fleets. So there are ways to augment your asset utilization strategy with the types of companies that you're leveraging. And some of the more innovative ways that we see companies focused on this right now is a true integrated appointment management system, either on the supplier side or the retailer side. And our value and differentiation is if I know that the truck is going to be, let's say, 2 hours early, and there's another truck for a different shipment that's going to be 2 hours late, how do I dynamically reslot that pickup appointment or that delivery appointment? Where today, when you look at many processes, if you're late, you wait till the next in line. And if you're early, you got to wait to your appointment. And there's a much more efficient way that we can drive that. And I would say the last area that we see companies really heavily focused on this, we've seen massive growth within our own network with what we call network visibility. And this is where your prepaid suppliers can share inbound loads to you through the FourKites application. But also, if you have customer pickup shipments as a retailer, you can share your truck availability and your truck ETA to the pickup appointment back to your supplier. So what that's aimed at is, how do I reduce waiting time? How do I reduce dock congestion time? And how do I give some forward awareness to pick the product in advance, right? Yeah. That allows me to pick up on time, minimize the impact to drivers, and also gets me delivered to the destination even earlier than what I was planning to do.
Yeah, those last two applications are huge. It's something that I've been talking a lot about in the work that I've been doing with FourKites and talking to some of your customers. I mean, it's amazing the efficiency that it gives back to all of your customers.